Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, we are going to have a Dhamma talk. May everyone settle down and give the consent with 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Suriyassa bhikkhave udayato etang pubbangamaṃ etang pubbanimittaṃ yadidang arunugang evameva ko bhikkhave sattannam bojjangānaṃ uppadāya etang pubbanimittaṃ etang pubbukataṃ yadidang kalyānamittatāti. Dear Venerable Dhamma friends, today we are going to start another series of talks based upon one particular discourse delivered by the Buddha, and accordingly we will be discussing the 4 factors of enlightenment, and those who wish to get the reference for this particular discourse, you may go to the Samyutta Nikaya, and in the Maha concise teaching, you may find this particular sutta as Suriya Sutta, and whereby the Buddha at the beginning cite an example which hopefully help understand the theme what he is going to discuss. According to the example the Buddha mentioned, before the sunrise, there's a precursor or foresign, something called the dawn. So before the sunrise, the dawn happens, and it's a panoramic thing. A lot of colors appear in the eastern sky, and accordingly the pit darkness slowly reducing and giving a signal telling that sunrise is about to happen. So therefore everyone is prepared for the sunrise according to the dawn. Likewise, whenever the enlightenment of factors going to happen, that particular practitioner comes to know that my factors are mature enough so that it is now going to take the leadership. So it never happened overnight. It is happening slowly in a gradual process. So therefore just understanding the precursor or the signs itself is encouraging. So therefore when and where the factors like the faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and the wisdom, panchabala or panchendriya, and when it is getting mature up to the level of enlightenment of factors, that particular person can understand slowly how these factors are developing, and therefore nothing miraculous, nothing to excite, because it is happening in a gradual process. And on top of that, the Buddha himself given the early signs, so therefore one easily can understand, comes to know these are the early signs and the precursors. And the other thing is, if the particular yogi or the practitioner is endowed with the theoretical understanding, is one of the benefits for he or she. Therefore, theoretical understanding or the book knowledge also important. even without the theoretical understanding, without the book knowledge, when someone is practicing, these things, these precursors and early signs going to happen. So if you know beforehand, it is more helpful to develop the determination and the inspiration. That is why separate discourses, or by different discourses, Buddha present them as theoretical understanding. So this time what we are going to do is try to get at least this theoretical understanding. And example cited indicates it is not mere theory. There are some way one can understand it, one can comprehend it, deduce it, get the inferential understanding, so that force make it more rational. And with early theoretical understanding and this inferential knowledge, only one will go into practice and put into practice. And then when someone is experiencing it, is a completely different thing when compared with the theoretical understanding as well as the inferential knowledge or deductive knowledge. So that is how individual is advancing and making progress. So therefore, when we are starting a discourse like this, the first and foremost benefit is to get the theoretical understanding, get the theory or book knowledge, and whatever you keep it in your mind or holding is going to facilitate the deductive knowledge, inferential knowledge, or practical, pragmatic contribution to each an individual. That differs. Even we listen to a talk as a group, theoretical understanding is something, and deductive knowledge is quite circumstantial, quite personal. And to the extent that you have the deductive knowledge or inferential knowledge, he or she will put into practice, and then the realization happen. So with this, in this particular discourse what we have taken up, we may slowly understand what are the 7 factors of enlightenment. And content of the sutta indicate as a precursor, as a forerunner, before the factors of enlightenment come into being, you will meet up with true people or spiritual people. So when and where you are bound to meet more and more spiritual people or true people, that is an indication that your internal enlightenment factors are growing. Of course, this meeting or met up with virtuous people is an ethical issue. It is something related to the society. The development of enlightenment factors is a very personal thing. So this particular discourse indicates there's a direct relationship of the individual development and the ethical relationship. So therefore it is partly a personal thing, partly a social event. So when and where you are advancing, whether you like it or not, your good vibrations you are sharing with the others. Equally, good vibrations in the environment you can absorb. So this kind of a network is developing. And when you look at the world present day, in the normal media, you can see a lot of things for the worldlings to be worried, because the global heating and environmental pollution and frustration, tension, developing at a rate. And therefore, many people are thoroughly moved. What is the universal answer for this kind of a bad trends? So therefore, some give up the situation and they are desperately disappointed. But those who are taken the correct path along this first factor of enlightenment, namely the mindfulness, they find even though the erosion of the ethical values and the problems in the society at large, one can get moved, one can get thoroughly moved by this, and there is something what you can do individually, develop mindfulness, and then you can, more and more you mindful, you can make use this external deteriorating situation to develop kind of a urge and to develop more and more mindful. So while it is happening, you are bound to meet up with other people with the same vibration, and they are also, according to their circumstances, they are meditating. So when such people get together, we find, even though society at large is desperate and disappointed, there are some little amount of people in the society, in the globally connected through the mindfulness, and they get more chances to meet each other and develop a kind of a stage, and they keep on practicing. While practicing, individually also a practice of enlightenment are developing, and true people or spiritual people get into a kind of a network. It's called kind of a consciousness developing, so that even though the amount of true people or spiritual people is less, their benevolent vibration is very powerful than whole malice in the earth, in the universe. So therefore the little amount of people with the true spirituality, they never get hesitant telling that world, society at large is deteriorating, it is hopeless like. Instead they say, we must get moved and we must get urged to practice regularly. And even though the true people little in the proportion, they become encouraged and going on. So we are in such a stage on the earth now. You can see majority are going in the wrong way or without any aim, but huge amount, simply to say, more than what you expect. Huge amount of people are really moved and really urged to take the correct path, and they are continuing. So how blessed or how opportunity if we can have a chance to meet and deal with that kind of true people, and then you understand each and every time the good and the bad is always available. So therefore you must understand how to see the good side, how to see the soft end, how to see the beautiful side, and then you will end up with phrasing the Buddha, you will end up with phrasing the Dhamma, you can end up with phrasing Sangha, the true people, and you will understand. For that to happen, your contribution is your precepts. You must be morally very sound. Then definitely you will get attracted into this true people, spiritual people. So this is a kind of a telepathic system, or it's a kind of a universal law that network is happening. So having said that, or introducing that, let us go and see what are the factors of enlightenment. And the second thing is, as far as spiritual ladder is concerned, where is the place where factors of enlightenment come into being? To come up to that, we have to understand the Buddha mentioned 37 factors of enlightenment. It is starting with for foundation of mindfulness. So starting with mindfulness 4 times. And then when it is developing further, Satra Samyak Pradhan Virya and Satra Irdipada, That means 4 kinds of ardent energy and 4 ways of success. And passing that, you come to the 5 powers, 5 indriyas and 5 powers. Then only you come up to the 7 factors of enlightenment. And people, those who are familiar with the book knowledge, knows after that factors of enlightenment, you will step into the 8 Noble Path, and that is the culmination or end of the our spiritual journey. So when comparing that 7 factors of enlightenment, it's a fairly advanced stage. Simply to take Sati Sambojjhanga, the very first factor of enlightenment, is talking about the mindfulness. So we start with 4 foundations of mindfulness, and the Indriya mindfulness and power of mindfulness, and then only the mindfulness as the factor of enlightenment, it happens. So the Burmese masters try to give some practical hints as to say, when someone is starting with the 4 foundations of mindfulness, namely the Satara Satipatthana, he or she, even though he or she is in mindfulness, may or may not be aware that I am mindful. That is the basic state, and it is working negatively for the uneducated people, for the people with lack of book knowledge. So therefore, most of the people, something like this group, coming to meditation centers and practicing, they are often underestimate their mindfulness. Therefore, they are finding so much of reason to be discouraged. Whatever the effort I am going to take, whatever the association with the true people, whatever the precepts I am going to observe, my mindfulness is not up to the mark. That is, maybe as the mindfulness is not up to the mark. One thing may be. The other thing is, you may be fully mindful, you don't know. That is the most difficult part to convince or to understand. But it is no much of a harm if you are practicing regularly, even though if you become very disheartened and feel not happy, contented towards the mindfulness, if you keep on practicing, you can see some kind of a evolution is happening, but usually it is not up to your mark. And then passing 4 ways of effort and 4 methods of achievement, you will come up to the mindfulness as a indriya or faculty. They are sometimes, you may understand at the Satipatthana level, you have to have a lot of effort, simply to say a lot of noting, a lot of labeling, then only you can keep the in-breath and out-breath intact, or your sitting posture is face-to-face, or your walking posture or left and the right face-to-face, you need a lot of noting, lot of labeling, but that means a lot of energy. But when it is developing up to the like faculty, Sati Indriya, all of a sudden you see without much of effort, in an unexpected time, you become mindful. May not be in a sitting posture, may not be in a walking posture. Amidst of all the kind of thing, kind of a self-awareness going to happen. And you find due to the early mistakes, occasionally, unexpectedly, you become mindful. Maybe you are observing a television, or maybe you are observing an accident by the side of the road. But all of a sudden you come, and you find without much of noting, without much of effort, it is happening. And that is because of your early trial and error. Still, when you are practicing, you may understand, not only when you are mindful with the object of meditation face to face, other time when you are not mindful, you will come to know, now I am not mindful. That is the very beautiful state. All the negative going to become positive. all the understanding that I am not mindful happening within yourself, and you now can give bookkeeping so much of time, so much of proportion in my sitting meditation, so much of proportion in my walking meditation, or so much of occasions in my day-to-day activities, I am mindful or not mindful. So this is the very critical point. If you misunderstand or not reflecting in a wise way, understanding or awareness about unmindfulness, those who have unwise reflection make a point to be discouraged, but the people with wise attention definitely consider this as a double positive. Now when and where I am not mindful, I know I am not mindful. So that is only, that point can be taken to the surface, so this the light only under the discussion, not through the discourses, not through meditation, not through sitting and walking. So you have to have a Kamatan Suddha Karna in Sinhala. That means you have to have interviews, you have to have discussions. In the discussion only you will understand. The understanding of lack of mindfulness is much more adventurous than understanding the mindfulness. That is to say, when you are sitting and observing, for example, your sitting posture or in-breath and out-breath or rising and falling, when and where it is there, you know verily you are with your primary object. But sometimes, even though you get the full best time for sitting and all the facilitating things are given and kind of thing, mind keep on wandering. Or mind get distracted due to sounds. Or your body going to give uncomfortable feelings. And if you are really briefed, if you go prepared, even amidst of daydreaming, fantasizing, thinking, sounds and the pain, still if you can be aware that I am sitting, I can be aware of my sitting posture. Or occasionally I can see the in-breath and out-breath. Under such circumstances, if you are briefed, if your discussion is successful, the master or senior meditators will enlighten you to say, more than try to be with the in-breath and out-breath and say mindfulness, amidst of sound and the thought and the pain, still if you can see the in-breath and out-breath, maybe occasionally, or still if you can see sitting posture through distraction, that mindfulness is more sporty, more adventurous. So therefore don't think it's a waste of time, don't think it's a failure. This is the way the mindfulness become diversified. Mindfulness understand how to see through distractions and to highlight your primary object and consider that moment as a power of mindfulness than a lack of mindfulness. So this stage is the most transitional or most evolving type we call Sati Bala, and they are all the distractions you are put into correct way as if blessing in disguise, and that is happening only among very group with quite a dynamic dialogue. Everyone has to contribute and discuss and make the point clear. Then only the adventurous mindfulness going to happen specifically for lay people. Those who have multitasking, those who have a lot of responsibilities, they have no regular time or majority of time for sitting and walking. Under the situation of distractions, they practice mindfulness, not the fully total mindfulness is the concentration, but amidst of distraction, they can still know how to verify the mindfulness through or seen through the distraction, and still you can see the posture. Still you can see the in-breath and out-breath, or rising and falling, or in the walking meditation, still amidst of sounds and thoughts and pain, still you can see the right leg, left leg, or walking posture. So when it is happening, it is like a struggling. It's like a tightrope walking. When it is come up to the Bojjhanga level, become stronger and come up to the mindfulness as a factor of enlightenment, you are really entertaining that. You never make a complaint. You understand when and where difficulty happen. Don't consider it is as a bad karma or bad deeds, or consider as a lack of precepts. Don't consider it as a lack of mindfulness. It is a challenge. It's a way you are sharpening it. When it's sharpening, you at the Bojjhanga level, you understand not a single distraction can completely cut off the mindfulness. Distraction can little weaken the mindfulness, but mindfulness is continuing. So they are, in order to support that kind of a situation, the Buddha mentioned Satadipateya Sabbe Dhamma. He says whether you know or not, each and every time you are mindful. Mindfulness is either leading phenomena. At the Bojjhanga level only you understand whether you are successful or not, whether you are in a gain or lost, whether you are in a pain or pleasure, whether you are in a popular or unpopular situation. The mindfulness is there. And till that, up to the Bojjhanga level, you tend to complain, telling that that particular person, that particular object or that particular circumstance going to disturb my mindfulness. But when you come up to the Bojjhanga level, you understand not a single person or any circumstance or any event cannot cut off my mindfulness. Mindfulness is always there. And when you are enlightening onto that, you will make a determination from morning to evening. You can make sure your mindfulness is like a blanket application. Here and there it has become very thick and very strong. Sometimes it is weaker, but the mindfulness is continuing throughout. So when that happens, you become independent of your posture. You become independent of the meditation center, or you are at home or you are in the forest. You become independent whether you are amidst of people with lack of mindfulness, or you are with the midst of so much of spiritual beings or true people. Whatever the situation may be, you know how to get the equilibrium. You know how to get the balance. So when that happens, you never complain the second person or the circumstances as to this is conducive of mindfulness and this is not conducive. So therefore you are come up to equanimity, come up to a contentment of your mind, and at that level in the society you can see who is the other person who also have that kind of a balance. That is the person we can say a true person. That's a person we can say spiritual being, and they have their own balance. And something like the true person is a person never controlled by a remote controller. No one can let them mad, no one can make them angry, no one can make them desireful people, but they have their own control. People, those who have not come up to the Bojjhanga level of mindfulness or not associated with the true person or friendly, the spiritual beings, they are always moved. They are always controlled by remote control. So therefore other people can send them mad, make them angry, make them desireful, and therefore the understanding the true person as well as internal development of mindfulness have some kind of a common character and mutual understanding. And when it is happening, you may see, even at the time of the Buddha, this kind of maintenance of mindfulness was not so majority, not so common. It's always rare. Even at that time it is rare. Even in India it is rare. Present day also it is rare. Even in this place it is rare. But that does not indicate it is an impossibility. It's a possibility. So therefore, whenever you are try to keep the mindfulness, specifically for the beginners, don't think that the beginner's mind or untrained mind have the ability to understand mindfulness when you are mindful or unmindfulness when you are unmindful. Often this understanding is mistaken. So therefore, whenever you report your experience, don't report with preconceived idea. Just explain your touch, your experience. The experience yogi can understand two things. One thing, whether you are advancing or not. Second thing, whether you misunderstood or not. So therefore, if you wish to have a clear discussion or interpretation, you must not add your value judgment to the interview report. Just give the what you experience, and that is very difficult because our mind is very, very judgmental. Our mind is very, very preconceived, assuming. So therefore, when and where mind go forward, you get discouraged. When and where the experience, the direct touch take the forward, lot of reason for someone to be happy. So therefore, not only by meditating, not only by listening to talks, you can gain the reason to be glad. To gain the reason to be glad, discussion is a must. And in the discussion, you must be directly exposing yourself with the experience, and then you may find there are a lot of other people are willing to share their experience also, but we do not know the art. So that is why in meditation centers, they have compiled different papers and indicates when you are reporting your experience, there is a format. That's an art. These are the things you must explain. And by listening the report of your meditation, if you are starting with something wrong or something complaining, that means your understanding about the vipassana is something wrong. In vipassana, we never talk about mistakes. We never use terms impossible or no. We only report what is possible and what is available. So therefore, if someone is using the language and everything to say this is impossible, this is I am discouraged and therefore what to do, that means basic concept of vipassana not being communicated. So very nicely the Burmese masters, they say, if someone find difficult to write a proper interview report or how to report your experience, it is not a mistake of the yogi, but it's a mistake of the master. Master has to teach not only the instructions, not only the theoretical knowledge, a master has to teach how to report. And if it is not there, the yogi always with full of doubts, full of perplexion, full of discouragement. That is because the master never given the dialogue, the communication. So to get that communication corrected, it's a skillfulness of the master. So therefore it says, if you are going to help someone in meditation, you must be at least develop your mind up to the Bojjhanga level. Then only you can communicate with other person and lead. Or it may be constructive, the instruction you can give. Otherwise, whatever you are talking is discouraging the other party, or it has become a frivolous talks. So therefore, till you come up to the Bojjhanga level, you have to associate the true people, to associate the spiritual people, because they are not encouraging this kind of a half-mature interpretation or reaction or preconceived idea. So therefore, if you go to a meditation center, most talkative people are the worst lot. They are always jumping and giving any instructions, and they become the upper hand because the educated people and mature people encourage the noble silence. But the most immature people, they are the chatterboxes and very difficult. Sometimes you lose your temper and feel like directly indicating don't tackle, don't going to give discussions or interpretations, mind your own business, adhere to the basic instruction. But again I am repeating, till you come up to the Bojjhanga level, you will never understand the value of these instructions. So therefore, once you come up to the Bojjhanga level, you become so faithful to the sasana or to the teachers, how much pain the teachers and the true person and the spiritual people has to be compassionate and sympathetic to the newcomers. So therefore, if the newcomer is really, genuinely interested in understanding the Dhamma, the path is clear. Path is very straightforward. But the thing is, communication never takes place. But this method, present what we are doing, is the only method. That is we call trial and error. So by keep on practicing only one day, you will come up to this understanding who is the true person, understanding what is the mindfulness and how can I understand when the mindfulness is available. Or often I am complaining, I am not mindful, like is it really I am unmindful or my mind is full of hatred. So that is why the Buddha, when he is explaining and giving the talks, he never discriminates. He gives the talks to everyone, but only the mature people can grasp the idea. So therefore, don't worry whether your development gone up to the level of Bojjhanga level or not. There's a mindfulness is there, it is evolving slowly. And the day you understand, when it is available, it is available. It is not, it is not. That is a kind of a precursor. That's a kind of a forerunner to understand that each and everyone advance only through this gradual process. So therefore, to have that kind of assurance, only your contribution is regular practice. You have to keep on practicing whether you are successful or not. Adhere to the regular timetable. Of course, I know as lay people, having so much of responsibilities and workload, very difficult to have a regular timetable. Therefore, I am not telling meditating 12 hours or 18 hours a day. What I am telling is, make your sitting hours regular, make your walking hours regular, and do even 1 hour per day. And whenever you see another person with so much of burden and the responsibility, still practicing 1 hour sitting and 1 hour walking, that's a very clear indication he or she is a true friend. He or she is a spiritual friend, because that regular practice is not easy, the midst of all the responsibilities. So therefore, you have to set a role model, you have to set an example, and then keep on practicing. Then only you can look at by looking at the society, you can see what are the other people have the spiritual backbone, spiritual regularity. When it is happening, ultimately you, as far as I am myself as an individual, more than what you expect, there are good people in the society. There are true spiritual people in the society. To get the attraction to them and to have association, only the character you have to maintain is regular practicing. And doing regular practice and come up to the Bojjhanga level is a long story. At the beginning, what you have to do is development of the mindfulness at the Satipatthana level, and at that time your progress is painfully slow. It is not an individual question. It is not an individual mistake or individual weakness. This is the way. So you have to understand, be patient, and while practicing, your interpretation of mindfulness as Satipatthana will be more refined when it will come up to the as a faculty, as a power, evolving. So when we were in Nilambe, we had a discussion in the evening. There was no master. We get together, and some newcomers came and asked, when someone is developing along the mindfulness, is mindfulness is static or evolving? So our conclusion was mindfulness is static. Mindfulness is something that from the Satipatthana level and the faculty level, or it is at the power of mindfulness level or enlightenment factor, is equal. It is never changing like. So because we have no much of experience, but now I feel mindfulness is evolving. Along the 37 factors of mindfulness, the Buddha mentioned mindfulness is 8 places. 4 foundation of mindfulness, mindfulness as a faculty, mindfulness as a power, mindfulness as a factor of enlightenment, and mindfulness as a noble path factor. So when it is happening, your individual definition of the mindfulness at the Satara Satipatthana is good enough to be mindful at the Satipatthana level, but it is not well defined. You have to keep on practicing. While practicing, it is evolving. That evolution, 2 people may not be equal, may not be parallel, but each and everyone understand. More and more you practice, your definition, your interpretation is increasing. So therefore, in order to facilitate that evolving or diversification of the mindfulness, you have to keep on listen to the talks or read the sutta or literature. You have to keep on regular practice, and you have to keep on discuss. So therefore the Buddha mentioned, whenever the group practicing, if they are peaceful and if they are inclined to inward, then meditation is a hobby. It is very pleasurable. But if the group is with a distortion and not much of mutual understanding, then the journey it's very painful. So therefore, while practicing, sympathize all the other practicing yogis. The way of sympathy is don't talk. Don't talk. When you are talking, not only your inner chatter become vibrant and going out, you are distorting the other person also. It appears like a social thing. Say, how are you? Good morning and evening. But we are not coming here to this place to have this social relationship, to understand each other. So therefore, if someone is silently, slowly, mindfully walking, it is a silent sermon. The other person also become calm down and start meditating. So therefore, when we are practicing as a group, we have to understand to bring the mindfulness up to the developed level of Bojjhanga level or Sati Sambojjhanga, if I am to use the Pali term. It's a long story. So therefore, to start with at the 4 foundation of mindfulness, you can say whatever the object you select, for example, your primary object, if the mind is more and more immediate with the object or association object for a long time, that is, you can understand to the extent it is associated with the primary object, so much so mindfulness is developing. So therefore, at the beginning, you must know when you are sitting, what is your primary object, and when and where mind is free, where to apply. For example, when you sit, according to the basic instructions, you may take the sitting posture or in-breath and out-breath as your primary object. Or sometimes you may take instead rising and falling of the abdomen. So see day by day, sitting by sitting, how many risings and fallings, or how many breaths you can keep in view with, so much so the mindfulness is developing. When you go to the walking meditation, how many steps you can be mindful consecutively. So if it is increasing, make sure your distortion thoughts, distraction, wandering, daydreaming, or your distraction due to the sounds and the pain naturally will be answered and gradually will be reduced. Don't worry about the distraction. Instead, make sure day by day you are associating the primary object. For example, sitting, in-breath and out-breath, or rising and falling, in walking left and the right. If it is increasing, try the ways and means or how to facilitate more association with the primary object. You are definitely going to be the winner. Because we can't deal at the beginning with the distraction. Instead, what you can do is fill the mind, keep your stream of consciousness as much as possible with thought moment without any defilements. The thought moment without a defilement means you are mindful with your primary object. You are mindful with your posture. So, if you analyze the amount of, if you analyze the reports of the question and answer session, many question and answer or questions are based on difficulties. So that means you have to learn a lot to understand what is vipassana means. Anything appearing is not a problem. Anything appearing is happening to the cause and effect relationship. If you are making a problem, you are an idiot. That is what you call foolishness. That is what you call ignorance. It is not to hurt you. Because our mind is very happy with difficulties. Our mind is very happy with frustration. Our mind is very happy with tension. So we are always talking and searching about tension. So this is the way it happens. Answer is, don't talk about the mistakes. Talk how many thought moments you can keep with the in-breath and out-breath. Is it increasing or decreasing? Or you can say, not like earlier, I can give more and more information about how the in-breath, how to out-breath, how many in-breath and out-breath you can see, and in-breath to in-breath changes, out-breath to out-breath changes. Buddha says, within 7 days you can finish the task. If you are going to talk and accumulate the mistakes, you have to wait till the Maitreya the Buddha, and he also will kick you. Get out from this place, because you don't know mindfulness, you don't know the vipassana, you don't know meditation, you are talking only the mistakes. No. The Buddha is teaching metta. Metta means we find a reason to be glad under any circumstances. So therefore reporting indicates how the understanding of vipassana, how the understanding of mindfulness, and to see the reason to be glad is each and everyone at the beginning do the same mistake. So therefore it is not a personal one. One day someone has to keep on practicing. While practicing, one day you will understand how to report the good side, how to report the primary object, how to report how much you are efficient in noting. And then later you can say, I am practicing, yes, with the primary object, I am noting, yes, with the primary object, but after that I have so much of problem, this and that. So problem must be in the latter part of your report, but the early part must be with the achievement, positive side, gladness. When it is happening, it never happened automatically, it is happening through a lot of trial and error. Then only then you can say your early effort of trial and error is going to give this much of clarity in your meditation. And then onward, meditation is no more any regimentation. You know how to ride the wave and to develop mindfulness according to the circumstances. So therefore, don't assume it is impossible as a layperson. It is impossible as a householder. If you know the art, slowly you will develop a lot of ways and means. So today, I did not take much time to define mindfulness. I did not take much time how to really understand the true person on theoretical base and take much time to define the term Bojjanga. So being today is the first day, I just try to give the basic guidelines, hoping in the next talk I am going to deal little deep into the mindfulness and the characters of the true person as well as the Bojjanga. I hope till that you will keep on practicing, sitting and walking, and don't give up and don't try to be disheartened. And by practicing, each and every person according to their background definitely going to improve and increase the moment of the mindfulness, and that is the way we can set a good example to the society as well as be compassionate and sympathetic to oneself. So if someone is understanding Dhamma on that line, it is ever rejuvenating, it is ever bright, and you will get a lot of energy to keep on practice. So with that, I would like to sum up the today's talk, and I was really happy to see so much of people coming for the today's session, and I know many are senior people, understood and practicing one, and to newcomers to happen, you must keep on running this attention and participation, and future each and every one of us must try to give this message to the newcomers, and it must be palatable and digestible to the newcomers. That is how this ball keep on running. So therefore I would like to thank for your presence as well as thank you very much for listening. With that remark, I would like to sum up the today's talk. Thank you very much. So this is the end of the English talk, and when Chandananda will give a translation, those who wish to listen to that may remain here. Others may take time for a walking meditation. After 45 minutes, we will be gathering here again if they are to see whether there are any question and answers. And after that question and answer session, we are going to see the end of the day's session. Thank you very much.